When actors aren't acting, which is most of the time, we do other things to get by. Role play for the police, teaching drama to kids, and taking the annual opportunity to be an elf at Santa's Grotto. My alter ego was named Sparkle Chops. That's a good name. And in December 2018, I finally retired. I hung up my elf outfit, put away the glitter, and decided it was time to move on after a rather unfortunate event involving Santa's bowels. Just you wait. I lost track of the amount of crying, screaming children that I photographed, too scared to sit on Santa's knee. Now looking back, they were sensible kids. But my favourite was a little boy who asked Santa to bring him a pizza for Christmas. When it was his time for a photo, I chirped, "Oh, give me a Christmas smile," to which his mum shouted, "Look less cross-eyed." I've never seen a kid look so confused. He tried uncrossing his eyes, which only made things worse, and resulted in the worst photo I've ever taken during my time as an elf. I'll also never forget the bloke who came to the grotto with a baseball bat. He said he wanted to lock all the elves in his shed and feed us his special yoghurt. He didn't have a kid with him either. This is what was really weird, so I don't know what he was doing there. And I said I was flattered, but no thank you, because dairy doesn't always agree with me. A child with red cheeks called Nevaeh asked for a potato. I don't know why. Side note, if a child is called Nevaeh, they will always say, "It's heaven spelled backwards." Now fancy having to go through life just explaining your name. Parents can be so cruel. And I became fascinated with kids' names, especially a little girl called Ambi Pure. I said, oh, this is horrible, isn't it? I said, "Come on, Ambi, time to get your present." Her mum put one hand on my shoulder and said, "Listen, love, her name's Ambi Pure." And I said, "What, like the air freshener?" "Well, she's my kid and I'll name her what I want." The grotto was divided into different areas with different roles, and I got to be floor elf, which basically meant posing for selfies, cuddling babies, and answering ridiculous questions. Now, at first, I didn't have the answers, but after a while, I got worryingly good at lying, and what questions they were. Sparkle Chops, does Santa watch you when you're on the toilet? My daddy says, will you sit on his knee? If you're an elf, then why? I've got one voice that I can do that's not my own, so this is different, kids, by the way. And Father Christmas is different as well, just you wait. Sparkle Chops, if you're an elf, then why are you in Manchester Arndale and not far away being a midget? Now, this was a few years ago. The kid wouldn't say that now. None of my elf friends understood the 6 weeks of Christmas immersion involved, so us elves formed a close bond. We became a gang, and not just any gang, we were the elite. Father Christmas's gang. It was almost like being a celebrity. Now, hear me out. Everyone wants your photo, everyone knows who you are, and you get mobbed by kids in Aldi when you're trying to buy a sandwich. So it's just the same. Other roles at the grotto included pram watch, which meant just staring at empty prams whilst the mums and babies were in seeing Father Christmas. Very soul destroying. Another was refill elf. Also pretty rubbish. Now that one involved topping up boxes of chocolate lollies for 10 hours and not eating them, which is probably a good thing because the chocolate they used in the lollies was only 5% cocoa solids. I'm still trying to work out what the other 95% was. The worst role though was beard arranger, which meant fixing Father Christmas's beard in between kids' visits. That was very, very demeaning. Why couldn't he just do it himself? Being floor elf meant that I had to chat to people waiting in the queue, but they were rarely normal. I remember a man who was a chronic oversharer, and in the space of 5 minutes I learned all about his eczema and that his wife wanted to be called Andy. I earnestly responded and smiling and just said, "Oh, well, as long as you're all happy." He simply replied, "We're not." I wished Andy a very Merry Christmas and told him that Santa was ready now. When in doubt, just pass it on to the big man. Now, as elves, we dealt with ambulances, vomit, and a tangled web of internal elf politics. These included the supervisor having a Christmas fling with both Santas. Yeah, both of them. Oh, thank you.
I'm just seeing it going down
Oh,
very
thank
slowly.
you. Oh, well, no pun intended. Thank you very much. Come on. That makes a very highbrow story. Thank you. So she was getting with both Father Christmases. I also recalled heated arguments over which air freshener to use, Forest Pine Dreams or Sugar Plum Fantasies, neither of which smelt like an acting job. But despite the large volume of bodily fluids, I quite enjoyed myself because it was non-stop drama and there was always something going on. At the grotto, we all ate like pigs. We somehow managed to survive on a diet of Greg's pasties, Quality Street and personal failures. However, after a few weeks of a high-sugar, pastry-fueled diet, the big man himself, Father Christmas, felt a stirring in his stomach. I heard a gurgle, that was for dramatic effect. I heard a gurgle that sounded like a dodgy pipe in an old house. He looked terrified and immediately started taking off his costume. Layers upon layers of brightly coloured pre-worn tat. I'd never seen a man take off his clothes so quickly, even in my wilder days. His costume left a trail from the grotto to the public toilets. This was not Christmas magic. The supervisor slapped a tenner in my hand and sent me to the nearest place that sold Imodium. I ran through the Ram shopping centre dressed as an elf, crashed into Boots and headed for the medicines. There was a box that read Instant Relief. I grabbed it and joined the long queue. A little old lady looked at my glittery cheeks, stripy tights and rigid hands holding the anti-shitting tablets and let me go in front of her. So that was very kind. I ran back to the grotto to meet with hordes of screaming kids. Get out of my way, I shouted as I handed the Imodium to a very happy, soon-to-be relieved Father Christmas. The supervisor told me to keep the change. The rest of the day went smoothly, but it was there and then that I decided that Sparkle Chops should probably retire. The thought of Father Christmas potentially shitting in his sack was too much to contemplate. Yay! That's true!